my friends, welcome back to the channel. I hope that you're all having an absolutely beautiful, wonderful, great evening. Thank you as always for joining me here on the channel. Today, because you can already see by the title of the video, today we're going to listen to David Crosby, who sadly passed away just recently. So we're going to commemorate and remember him by listening to his album, If I Could Only Remember My Name. This is his debut solo album, released in 1971. So I had always planned to do something in listening to Mr. Crosby. We've done some Crosby, Stills, and Nash on the channel, and it kind of fit in because of that. So a lot of you had asked me to listen to specific songs. I know that Laughing was one of the songs that was highly requested. Not a lot of people recommended necessarily the full album, but I figured, why not? like really. So like I said, while not a lot of people recommended the full album, a few guys did recommend at least songs, in particular Frugal, Severin, Christian, Gaia, Eternal, and a few others here. Not a ton, but like I said, here and there as well. So I just figured let's just go ahead and listen to the whole album here. It's not that long. I got time. If you're here, I'm assuming you have time, so we'll just move forward with that. And as I mentioned before, sadly, by the way, starting off 2023 kind of awkwardly, with Jeff Beck, I would love to read your comments of your listening experiences, whether that is to this album, Crosby, Stills, and Nash, live performances, live shows that you've been to. I'd love to hear those, and I'm sure that other fans of Mr. Crosby would like to read those, just to have a nice back and forth communication, a little pass and a little shoot. I don't know where I was going with that. Anyways, so let's go ahead and start off listening to the album. The first track here, hold on. Music is Love. Now, also, just as an FYI, half of the songs on here were available on Spotify, which is what I generally use to play music. But half of them were not. So I'm actually just using a YouTube channel here, and I hope the quality is good. I looked through the comments really quick, and it seems like no one's complained about the quality, so I'm assuming it's good. Obviously, I can't test that. So we're going to go ahead and just use this YouTube video to go through the album. It'll be a little bit harder for me to kind of go back and forth on certain things, but that's not a big deal. Anyways, grab a friend, grab some good memories, grab a drink. I got a iced coffee, a little bit of whipped cream, but not a lot. I'm doing this little diet thing. I don't know if I told you guys, but I lost 7 pounds already. Don't jinx it. But let's go ahead and start off the first track. Music is Love. Let's go. Production just changed. Became a lot warmer and full. Okay, Music is Love is like any good introduction to an album. It's a really nice setting. It sets you up wonderfully, especially with the message, which is very repetitive, but it means something. Everyone's saying music is love. Everyone's saying it, it is. Music is love, the gift of music, the sharing of music, the listening to music, the sharing between fans and listen. Like, yes, it's obvious, sure, but nonetheless, it doesn't detract from the message itself and the meaning of it and the depth of it. And I do like how later on it's put on your colors and run, come see. Everybody's saying that music's for free. Take off your clothes and lie in the sun. Everyone's saying that music's for fun. Take off the external. Take off the things that, in a sense, not literally, but to an extent, take off your external self. Take off your clothes, literally or metaphorically, and just expose yourself naked and truthfully to music. Allow it to engage with you, and then share that with one another. So I like the message, and I like how the music became a lot more full in that final verse. The production warmed up a lot, almost as if the direction of the message slightly changed, as we saw in the verse there, where it's, instead of it being repetitive, it changes, right there. So I like that. Then I like how you have all these group harmonies. You have the whole group, which I see that there is a lot of names in here, some of which I do recognize, which is kind of interesting. But everyone's just kind of preaching this same message. Just everyone's singing out happily. Not everyone is perfectly in line with one another. The harmonies are great, but you know what I mean? Like, they're not like overly produced or anything. It's just the spirit of love and the spirit of music, which is completely embedded in this particular track. Then you have the light percussion that comes and it drives along. The guitars, of course, there and everything. So, like, it's really about just the vibe of it. I'm curious to see where the rest of the album goes, but this was a nice set piece and setting for the album. Now, can I say, obviously you have Dave Crosby. You also have Graham Nash, so you have him involved as well. You have Jerry Garcia, which I don't think I've ever listened to the band, but isn't he from Grateful Dead? Yeah, he's from Grateful Dead. Then, of course, you have Neil Young. So we have Crosby, Nash, not Stills, but Young. Then you also have, Michael Shreve. Then, I only remember that name because drummer, Santana, that performance we watched, ooh, he was going. But you also have Joni Mitchell on here. And she's on the track Laughing and What Are Names. Maybe that's the reason why everybody was recommending me to listen to Laughing, which we will get to. But nice setup for the rest of the album. Let's go ahead and let the next song play, which is interestingly named Cowboy Movie, which I was just watching. You know how sometimes you go on YouTube and you start watching movie scenes, like you've already seen the movies, but you don't want to watch like the whole movie necessarily again at that particular point, so you watch certain scenes. I was watching the scene. It was the duel between, I don't remember the bad guy's name. Not the good, the bad, the ugly. That's a classic. I think it's A Fistful of Dollars. The duel between the bad guy in there, the villain, and like one of the unnamed kind of characters, like a side character. But the scene where he orders the guy to take out his wife and his baby outside, and then you hear two gunshots, and then they duel, and he says, "If you didn't hate me now, if you hate..." Ooh, I think it's Fistful of Dollars. It's one of the Man Without or the Man of No Name trilogy. Man. But it do make me want to watch the movie again. Okay, Cowboy Movie. Let's go. Let's go ahead and let it run. Let's see. There you go. Oh yeah, already changed. Oh no, that's good. Oh, boy. What a brilliant song. Okay, hear me out. Hide your children, okay? Hide your children, because I'm going to say something. I'm going to use a word. Okay? Hold on. I know, some of you are laughing. I could only think of one... I could only think of one word listening to this track. From the very beginning until the very end, I could only think of one word. Badass. I could not think of any other word to describe my feelings listening to this song. That strong thump, boom, that really great backbone of bass playing, the guitars. The guitar is just speaking, singing, screaming, narrating these events to us just as effortlessly and powerfully as Crosby himself, who is just singing raw, bluesy, westerny, dusty, intense, passionate. Like, this is so great. Okay, first of all, I didn't see any recommendations for this song. I'm just saying, there may have been, but this song is really good. So this is the track you're going to have Jerry Garcia from the Grateful Dead on with the guitar. And, I mean, the guitar playing in here from Garcia, from Crosby, because you hear a lot of intermixing and mingling of the guitars in here, is just brilliant. The acoustic, the electric, the vibe that they both bring to it, the intensity of the music. What I really like about this is, hear me out, I'm still new to music, like, not music in general, but I'm still like learning things. So what I'm going to say is going to sound probably very infantile, but I don't know. I'm just making comparisons. Recently, we've been listening to Pentangle, right? We just finished up one of their albums, Cruel Sister. And in their music, it's folk music, and the story's being laid out lyrically, by word, by song, And then, of course, the musicianship underneath continues to breathe the story to life. And oftentimes, the music underneath will stay at a relatively constant pace, not really changing or diverging too much, besides a few flares here and there. You know, the music is elevated, but it sticks to a certain pattern. I'm kind of getting a similar vibe listening to Cowboy Movie in the sense that the music itself changes, but it's more of an elevation, especially as the intensity and the climax of the story begins to like rev up, right? The music just intensifies. But at its core, especially rhythmically, it doesn't really change. It just intensifies. And I just really like that, especially because this is basically a Western folk song, right? Especially with the themes and what's going on, which I don't know exactly what happened, but I do know that things went wrong. I do know that for sure. This was just really, really brilliant to listen to. I think that this was a fantastic track. I gotta tell you, the name of the song "Cowboy Movie" isn't necessarily the most attractive song title, but the music itself is. This is really, really good. On the bass, you're gonna have Phil Lesh, and on the drums, you have Mickey Hart on this particular track, who I see actually looking at his Wikipedia is also from the Grateful Dead, which I guess that band has two drummers. I didn't know that. Okay, so let's talk about these lyrics here and let's talk about this story. Me and my good partners, we were riding back to our camp. We were feeling very fine and the air was clear and slightly damp. We were riding back to have ourselves a party to celebrate the robbing of a train. We were talking kind of low and lazy about not having to go out soon. Okay, so they're coming back from a train robbery. They're chilling at their crib, and then they hear a hawk in the night. They hear a signal from Billy, who is their sentry. So they grab their guns. They go outside. They find an Indian girl all alone out there. Eli says, "Let's take her back to the cabin." I said, "You don't know, she might be the law." He said, smiling kind of nasty, "It ain't too damn likely she'll beat me to the draw." Said, "If she is the law, she ain't fast." She's giving. As we were walking back through the darkness, I heard the Duke, he's our dynamiter, say, he said, "What's your name, sweet little Indian girl?" She said, "Raven," and looked away. Right then, I didn't trust her. No, I said, "Oh no." He's immediately feeling out this. He's feeling this out immediately, saying, no. This is not right. This is not right at all. Now, Eli, he's our fastest gunner. He's kind of mean and young from the south. He said, "Fat Albert, you're getting kind of old and weird now. You better get your 12 gauge shotgun right out." And I did. And one thing I mentioned kind of passingly, but the emotion that Crosby sells in his voice, I almost played the next song. The emotion that Crosby sells in his voice and in his singing during these moments, he is really, in a sense, acting, right? Because this is a story. In a sense, it's a script. It's a narration. He's speaking from a first person point of view, not poisson, not fish, but he actually brings it to life. He's not just singing the lines. He's not just singing the lines with a few nice little, sparks here and there. He's actually bringing this whole thing to life. Him and the rest of the band, really, especially musically. Okay, now it says, now Eli and Duke, they got down to it. They each wanted the Indian girl for their own. But when they finally got around to asking her, she said she'd come to take young Billy home. Eli said he'd kill young Billy. He'd kill the Duke. He'd probably me too. The Indian girl said, "Yeah, go ahead and now do it." I said, "Stop." She bit my thumb nearly clean through. And when they started to break down the door, I smeared my face up with blood from my thumb. I laid down on the floor playing a really good possum. I'm crazy, but I ain't dumb. Okay, now I'm kind of understanding it now that I'm actually reading the whole lyrics. So the law came through because, yes, this girl was the law. And I like that. Now I get it. He smeared blood on his face. He played dead so that they... Now I'm dying here in Albuquerque. I must be the sorriest sight you ever saw. The only reason I'm the only man here to tell it. That Indian girl, she wasn't an Indian. She was the law. There you go. Lesson learned. And all his friends, Duke, Eli, they're gone. Law cleared them straight out. Anyways, really, really enjoyable song. That was a really good listen. Let's go ahead and move on into the next track here. That's going to be, oh God, Tamalpay. Tamalpay's. I'm gonna say that as it's silent. Tamalpay high at about 3. Let's give it a run. All right, Tamalpay high. Is it? I don't know. I'm using YouTube. I told you sometimes Here it goes. I'm into this. Is that it? Okay. Okay. All right. Tomorrow. Whoa! That actually scared me. I thought I paused it. That really scared me. I wasn't expecting noise. Oh, the palpitations. Okay, so Elizabeth, I'm coming to see you. That totally just threw off what I was going to say. That atmosphere, Tamalpay High, it is so blissful, incredibly serene. This was a pretty much instrumental track with humming and harmonies, which was just glorious. I gotta tell you, and this is just me speaking, reminds me of Yes, and the way that they would maneuver their vocals, just so uplifting, so joyous, and then the instrumental part just meticulous and detailed, and so finely played. But not a note wasted, no space diluted or complicated. Everything in that mood just makes so much sense. And they play towards the track that they're putting down. They're not adding all this extra stuff in there just to throw it in. This just feels like it makes sense. While it may be wordless, it's speaking. I just love that. Da, 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 the chords they use, like everything just sounds really good. The snappiness of the drums, the of course sunlight from the bass, like it just all feels really good. This track is not that the last track was musically grim. I suppose like story wise and lyrically, I guess you could say, it's a little bit of a tragedy. Even though they robbed a train, so they kind of had it coming. Like you can't root for the bad guys. But this is a little bit of a dessert, a light, fluffy Japanese cheesecake, a little bit of that souffle sugar that kind of lightens everything up afterwards. This was a really, really nice track, especially once again that guitar playing. Really everything, but I'm just focused on the guitar, just everything speaking here. Now, once again, I do see here that you do have Graham Nash on not only those harmonizing vocals as well with everyone else, but he's playing guitar. Then you still have Jerry Garcia playing guitar. You have Jorma Karkonen on guitar here. You have a lot of guitar. That's at least 3 guitarists. And I would assume Crosby's involved in this too, so that's probably at least 4 even. So there is just so much depth, and yet at the same time, like I mentioned with this Japanese cheesecake and this souffle sugariness, it's so light. It's delicate, it's sweet, it cleanses the palate. This was a really, really nice track. I enjoyed that thoroughly. And then to add some whipped cream, which mine's kind of melting. I didn't have a lot in there. But to add some whipped cream on top of that, you just have those harmonies, which just kind of enlighten and enliven the mood. It just brings a certain colorful vividness to these skies that the band, especially Crosby, are painting. Wonderful. Wonderful track. Now, before I move any forward, I have 2 things to say. I didn't realize this, and I'm going back to the last track with Cowboy Movie, because I just happened to scroll down to get to the lyrics on this song, of which there are none. But I saw here something interesting. Crosby confirmed in a tweet on October 18th, 2021, that this song, talking about Cowboy Movie, is about CSNY. I didn't even think of making any sort of real life connection. Oh, the common belief is that the characters of the song are as such. Eli as Stephen Stills, Fat Albert as Crosby, Young Billy as Neil Young, Raven as Rita Coolidge, and Duke as Graham Nash. Now, I do not know anything about the history of the band, of their relationship, but just judging by the storytelling aspect on Cowboy Movie, I would imagine it didn't quite end very well. And then the second thing I wanted to mention is I'm Googling Tamalpay, and it looks like it is a mountain or a mountain range in California. Looks very pretty, actually. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but it looks really, really beautifully scenic as well. So this song, being Tamalpay High at about 3, is probably the wordless feeling and audio to the visual of actually being at the top of that mountain and looking out, because the view from what I can see on Google looks very nice. If I remember to, I'll edit pictures of the mountain in here. I'll be honest, I've probably forgotten. I'm hoping I remember. Hold on, make a mental note, mental note, put it up here. That'll do it. Anyways, let's move into the next track here, which is going to be Laughing. This is the one you guys had really been asking me for. So let me back up slightly. I can't even back up that well here. Hold on. I'm going to have to play it, and then I'm going to back up really quickly 10 seconds to Cowboy. Just give me a second.
I was mistaken.
I'll tell you one thing with Laughing. This time I did stop the track. The last, I don't know, I can't even tell you, minute, 2 minutes when it's just instrumental. Those last moments in the track, I kind of forgot I was here. I had my lost in the sauce moment. I always mention this. It doesn't happen too often, but occasionally you hear a track, you hear a certain kind of ambience that you just kind of stop thinking. You kind of enter that flow state. And while I'm not doing anything necessarily, I'm just kind of listening, you kind of forget that you're even here. I guess in a sense you kind of float. You know, I'm not going to say you have like an astral experience or anything, but you just kind of float away with the music. As the guitar was singing along, I wasn't even thinking. To an extent, I don't even remember what happened. but in the best way possible. I was just so in the moment that I wasn't really thinking about, like, I guess, like, the reaction. I wasn't thinking about what do I say after. Not that I always am, but I wasn't like just actively thinking. I was just kind of like, this is beautiful. I'm just blissfully sailing away. It's hard for me to even speak on exactly what I like from the song. I will say, I like how Joni Mitchell's vocals are used so lightly. Very lightly. I was expecting her to like really sing a verse or something, but she's really on here kind of relegated to the harmonies, and then you can hear her a lot more clearly in those last kind of moments. And besides that, at least on a first listen, I didn't really notice her as much. As a matter of fact, if you didn't tell me that Joni Mitchell was on this track, I wouldn't have even guessed it, to be honest. But what she did add, especially in that final was just gorgeous. It was like a heavenly send-off as I mentally checked out and just floated along this beautiful river that they laid down. Once again in here, the guitars and the string arrangement is king. You do have Jerry Garcia once again featuring in this track, and he's playing the pedal steel guitar here, which does add that kind of slight country atmosphere to it, but it's used to such a dreamy effect in here that, I don't know, this is just me, but I'm finding it hard to find words to say because I was just in a dream listening to this track. I really enjoyed it. I know. I'm sorry. I don't have anything more in depth to say, at least musically. I just kind of got swept along with it. And I just rode my boat downstream. Lyrically, I thought I met a man who said he knew a man who knew what was going on. Then you get this little pause. You get this little space of tension, which I really like from a story point of view. And then he says, I was mistaken. Only another stranger that I knew. So obviously we're getting some sort of journey. We're getting some sort of adventure in the sense that he's looking for something. What is he looking for? Well, apparently he's looking for something with depth and meaning because he said he's looking for a man who knew what was going on. But what is it that's going on that he's trying to find out? And I thought I'd found a light to guide me through my night and all this darkness. Pause. I was mistaken. Only reflections of a shadow that I saw. So perhaps he's trying to find purpose. He's trying to find, you could say it blandly, the meaning of life. He's trying to find a guide. He's trying to find the answers. And he's going to all these different people. He's going through all these different avenues, which could represent religions. It could represent, I don't know, friends and family. It could represent political beliefs. It could represent really anything. But he's going through all these avenues and he's still not finding the answer that he's looking for. And I thought I've seen someone who seemed at last to know the truth. I was mistaken, only a child laughing in the sun. And I feel like there's something deeper into these lyrics. Like this person that he thought might have the truth, he was mistaken was only a child laughing in the sun. There's something there. There's something there, and I'm not good at this part. Not all the time, at least. And I don't know what it is, but there's something deep about that. So I'm actually going to look up that specifically, see if we can find the meaning of laughing, because there's something about this that I think is kind of interesting. There's something here. It says that David Crosby wrote Laughing after George Harrison, told him about a guru from India he had met who seemed to have the answers to life's big questions. That guru was Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. Harrison and his fellow Beatles went to India to study transcendental meditation with him in 1968. That's talking about the Beatles. We're here to talk about Mr. Crosby. It says Crosby was skeptical and used this song to express his thoughts in a way that didn't come off as condescending. In this song, he concludes that the only person who knows the truth is a child laughing in the sun. So is that kind of, is he basically saying, like this child in the sun laughing that knows all the answers is whatever, I would say it's not necessarily God, but it's whatever God or whatever being is so high up that's laughing like a child at us that we can't even look at because he's in the sun. Just you can't look at the sun, or you shouldn't. And they're laughing at us. Whoever knows all the answers, they're somewhere way up there and they're just laughing at us as we scramble around and look around in the dark, basically. I think that's basically what he's saying. Because it does say he's skeptical, but he didn't want to come off as condescending. So that's how he kind of put it there, which I think is great, and actually reconnects, obviously, right back to the title of the track, Laughing. All right. See, I knew there was something. I didn't know what it was. I knew it was something. Okay, let's go into the next track here. Hold on. I got to pull it back up. The next track is going to be What Are Their Names? And can I say one thing before we get into this track? Obviously, it's correct here. Don't you hate when people use the wrong there? Okay, let's go. Yeah, deep that bass is. Did anyone else feel like this song just came and went? I feel like this was a breeze musically. I think that, okay, take the reaction part out of like the context of you and me right now. But this album, like I'm finding myself drifting off in a good way. I just, not falling asleep. Like I just find myself just drifting with the music and kind of not even, like I'm paying attention to it, but I'm not paying attention to it. And I don't mean like it's background music. I mean, I'm engaged with it. It just kind of, I don't know. It comforts me. I don't know. I think you know what I mean. When I can't find the words, I think that you understand what I mean. This is comforting me and lulling me, not to sleep, but in just to this dreamy, I'm just kind of listening to it and having a great time with it. I really like how the vocals come in. Like, I don't even know when, because I can't really, it's hard for me to see the times and everything here. But they come in maybe, halfway through, maybe near the end or so. They give out a few lines, and then they're out. I do see that in this particular track, we have David Freeberg, Paul Kantner, and then Grace Slick. And they are all members of Jefferson Airplane and etc. So I like how this is where the rest of those members come in from as well. I'm curious as to how did Crosby get all these other musicians and artists involved in this project? I'm just curious as to how that came about, which maybe we can find as we move forward and we dive deeper into some of the information here. And then we also have Michael Shreve on here. And you can hear, yeah, he's keeping it low, he's keeping it down, but you hear he's throwing in a few fills, he's throwing in a few little frills and thrills and trills even. So you got a lot of that. And then once again, it's the melodies of these guitars that are just carrying carrying the music from these points forward. I don't know. I'm sorry if this reaction is. I feel like I'm not saying anything because I'm just enjoying the music, which is really the purest reaction you can have. Lyrically, I wonder who they are, the men who really run this land, and I wonder why they run it with such a thoughtless hand. Tell me, what are their names and on what street do they live? I'd like to ride right over this afternoon and give them a piece of my mind about peace for mankind. Peace is not an awful lot to ask. This song has, I can't count them real quick, but I don't know, a little bit over 10 lines. And it means something. It means something. I really like that line. Give them a piece of my mind about peace for mankind. Peace is not a lot to ask for. That means something. That packs a little bit of a punch. I like how they say, tell me their names and on what street do they live on. And they don't say they'll go over there, in a week they'll plan to go somewhere. They say this afternoon, immediate action, because something needs to be done now, today. Pack your bags, pack a lunchbox. We're going. But once again, you also have that really lovely guitar. Actually, you have a guitar here from Jerry Garcia again. So he's a really, really good player. I don't know anything, like I said, about his main band, but in here, from what I can tell, he's putting it down. So let's move ourselves over into the following track here. That is going to be Traction in the Rain. Let's go. It's coming.
Find the strength to go. Now the strangest thing I've seen was a t-shirt.
Oh, just absolutely gorgeous. Very melancholic, very slow. Takes its time to develop. Takes its time to tell you something. On this particular track, you're featuring Laura Allen, who's on the auto harp, which makes a lot of sense listening to the music, just brilliantly played, vocals as well. And then you also have Graham Nash playing on here. Just gorgeous, especially the use of that harp, right? Adding this kind of, God, I don't even know how to say it. Like, this whole album has been very string based, right? Of course, the guitars, the steel pedal, the multiple layers of guitars, I should say. But doesn't the harp, which yes is still a stringed instrument, it adds a totally different dimension to the music at this point in the album. I don't want to say like it freshens things up, because it's not like the album has been stagnant at this point, but it freshens things up. It takes you on a different kind of turn, and it's incredibly beautiful and peaceful and lifting. Because the song, like I said, especially lyrically, this idea and this hope of getting out is kind of melancholic. It's a little sad, being held down by something. The song title, Traction in the Rain, it makes me think of, actually the image I had in my mind the whole time was just driving down the road, a dark road at night while it's raining. Listen to the way that the guitar riffs. If you listen to it, and this is just me, it sounded like windshield wipers. It's hard for me to back up. Let me see if I can, hold on. Give me a second. It's going to start the next song, but hold on. Right? Like, doesn't it, to me, that rhythm just sounds like windshield wipers on the glass. And so you're driving down this road in the dark at night, and perhaps you find yourself slipping. Perhaps you find yourself losing control. I'm thinking physically in the mind, but metaphorically, emotionally, whatever it may be. And you're just trying to gain traction in the rain. You're trying to gain control. And the music here does such a wonderful job of presenting that sadness of trying to gain control, but also presenting a little bit of peace from that harp in taking that control and making a move for whatever it may be. That's just incredible. Really enjoy the singing as well. This is just a good, mood, Anyways, it's hard enough, I know, to find the strength to go back to where it all began. It's hard to enough. Oh, hold on. maybe that's a typo. It's hard to enough to gain any traction in the rain. You know it's hard for me to understand. Hard to find a way to get through another city day without thinking about getting out. So you have the idea of course, being in a city and perhaps being trapped. I would love to personally live in like a big city, but the idea that this person is in the city and wants to get out. This could, of course, mean literally, but it could also just mean figuratively in some other way. Now, the strangest thing I've seen was a t-shirt turning green. In envy of a turtle dove. The dove's lady was the cause, or maybe it was the olive branch she held in her claws. Or maybe he could see they were in love. I gotta tell you, that line throws me off. I know it's symbolic, but I'm missing a few things there. So what does the t-shirt represent? The turtle dove, the dove's lady was the cause, the olive branch, I understand peace, right? She had in her claws. Or maybe that he could see they were in love. This turtle dove and the dove's lady were in love, and the t-shirt turns green with envy. I understand the t-shirt wanting to be in love like the dove, even though they're the same color, they're white, but this t-shirt turning green. I don't know. that part lost me a little bit, only because I'm not sure of what they symbolize. I guess, okay, actually, the t-shirt wants to be able to fly and escape like the dove, because a dove can fly out anywhere. The dove can leave the city. Oh, okay. N has the freedom to love. N has the freedom to fly. Okay. I think I caught it. I think I caught that one. All right. Let us move on. That was good. Sometimes you just gotta talk your way through it. Let's move forward into the next track here. Hold on, gotta get myself back here. That is going to be Song with No Words, or Tree with No Leaves, which you guys taught me that technically it's not a song if it has no words. Okay, let's go ahead and I'm gonna play a little bit of Traction in the Rain just because I went back a little bit and I can't move forward. But it's nothing wrong with listening to the last few seconds of this track. I love these tracks. Song with No Words was basically the same type of track as Tamalpay, which I told you, I love that. To me, that track, this one, are essential mood pieces. These are not interludes. These are not, anything lesser than what they're meant to be. These are essential mood pieces connecting this album. And I love that they went back to this type of style because I just thought that this was brilliant. Once again, it's just a dreamy mood piece to kind of let yourself get into. I love the wordless vocals. I love the guitar. Okay, I didn't want to say this during the track because I didn't want to sound I didn't want to sound or look stupid. Even though sometimes I do that because it's a first reaction channel generally. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of part of the course. But but I'm listening to the track and I'm saying, have we heard piano before in this album? Because I'm hearing piano now. And I didn't want to sound stupid as if I didn't hear piano before. But no, looking at it, we do have Mr. Greg Rowley on piano, and I do not see any piano anywhere else on this album. So I was correct. I just didn't want to say it and be like, and then I get the comments, dude, there's been piano throughout this whole album. Okay, but this is so intelligent. To me, whereas the last track had this kind of driving in a night storm, just a gentle rain, this one to me has a little bit of a happier and more uplifting feel, as if the rain is actually nourishing the earth, right? Whereas before it was a little bit of a darker, depressive kind of turn, a hopeless turn. And before, I told you, this album has been very guitar heavy, string based. But the harp added a totally new sound to this dimension. And this late in the game, we're adding just another new instrument that isn't anything crazy. We're not adding a bouzouki. I can't remember what they're called. It's bouzouki. We're not adding anything crazy, just piano. But once again, doesn't it completely kind of change and reshift the musical tone of the album at this point? It's such a small thing, but in an album like this, in music like this, it's those small touches, those small additions that are ending up making the most impact in a listen. And I just think that that's a great choice in the actual, for lack of a better word, the cadence of the album. Yeah, the flow, but the actual cadence of the music here that we're listening to. I just think that that's really good. And just a really great choice here. It says here, because this track obviously has no words, but it says the song boldly displays David Crosby scatting throughout, which I love the way he does that. In an interview through Uncut Magazine, he recalls, "I had a double handful of songs, and were good. I was doing things nobody had heard before, like Tamalpay High and Song with No Words, using your voice like a horn stack. They were loving that, so we do that stuff nobody else had done." And I think it sounds absolutely wonderful the way they did. Those two tracks really stand out amidst this album. Genuinely, kind of every track stands out. I will tell you, besides Song with No Words and Tamalpay, which I just love their atmosphere, I gotta tell you that Cowboy Movie, though. That is my top track as of right now. But we got two more to go. So the last two tracks, Orleans and then I'd Swear There Was Somebody Here. I may let them run together, or I may stop them to talk about them briefly, because they're both under 2 minutes long. The last one, 1 minute and 20 seconds. So I may let them go together, or I may still choose to stop and talk about them. We'll kind of see. We'll see how it feels and kind of go from there. Let's go. It's going to take a second. It's coming. There's a little bit of it again. Love the way he says that. Okay, I do have to stop it. I do have to stop it. Okay, so I see that on this particular track, it's only Dave Crosby here. No one else, nobody. It's just him. This album's really good. Remember how I said last song and song before, how at this point late in the game in the album, we keep on adding something. Well, take that turtle and turn it on its shell, because now we've flipped the formula and we take away everything. This is stripped. Not only do we take away everything, but we leave the voice. First, we leave the voice and it begins a cappella. Just David singing so beautifully, singing of these French cities, which of course vocally and tonally just sounds beautiful. And the way he layers upon himself, obviously overdubbed, is just glorious. It's so beautiful, so majestic. And then I thought it was just going to be him singing over himself, just an a cappella little track. But no, then he does bring the guitar in. And it just lifts everything like wings to this beautiful, beautiful song. So simply said, I'm imagining that these are probably cities that he's fell in love with, or he has some connection to. I guess I could look, well, I'm going to look it up. It says that this song appears to be a description of various cities in France, duh, ranging from the northern Orleans, that's how he said it, Orleans, to the most southern Vendôme. I don't remember how he pronounced it, I'm sorry. But I'm just imagining that he has some sort of connection to these cities in some way, an admiration, or something like that. Actually, I'm looking this up really quick. It says, even with the star-studded guest lineup, the final two songs feature Crosby alone, and only 5 songs have actual lyrics, Orleans being a 15th century round listing various French cathedrals. Okay, so I guess it's more cathedrals, which makes sense with Notre Dame de Cléry. Okay, that makes more sense. But gorgeous. Just like, this is just really good. I'm feeling another palate cleanser through this. Like, it's just continually purifying, continually filtering out everything that we heard before. Not that it was bad stuff, obviously we heard before, but just slowly kind of bringing the lights down, slowly taking away the other musicians. As we just read, the next track is also going to be just David Crosby and himself, nothing else. So I just like how we started off kind of small, intimate, grew into grandiose, and then now in these final 2 acts, now we're closing down the lights and getting ready to close the curtains. Very, very wonderfully done. let's go ahead and move on into the final track of the album. That is going to be I'd Swear There Was Somebody Here. Let's go. Is that it? Dude. This is one of those albums. This is one of those albums. From beginning to end, it is a pure journey. It is a wonderful adventure, a great exploration, and just as I mentioned, the last track, slowly bringing down those lights. What, David, really? Just ending on this kind of mystical outpouring of his soul, a spiritual outcry. Just his voice layered and layered and echoing and reverb through the canyon walls and against themselves, rebounding towards himself, his inner soul. Like, this is just so... There's so much being said that's not being said. A song without words. I don't even know what to say exactly, except what I just did. I think I kind of hit the key point of what I meant. And anything else, anything further of me saying that would just kind of delay and belay the point. It's a first listen, so I can't say perfection and everything like that. But needless to say, this album is way up there. I can't even say. I really love the way that this album ends, though, with these last two tracks, just leaving it alone with Crosby, taking away all the guest musicians, taking away everything, stripping away the other instruments that were brought in, and just leaving him alone. And then the last track even strips away the guitar and just leaves him vocally. And even then, it's wordless. What is there left to say that wasn't said before? It's all said in that wordless hymn and mystical calling. That is generally the end of the video. Generally. Just a really fantastic album to listen to. This was a fantastic listen. Now, can I tell you, as I'm scrolling up here just to look at some extra information about the album here, I'm just scrolling up and I do see something that I think is interesting. Under the critical reception and legacy of this particular album, it says that this was initially panned by many music critics. Writing for Rolling Stone, Lester Bangs deemed it a perfect oral aid to digestion when you're having guests over for dinner. Village Voice critic Robert Christgau gave the album a D- rating and dismissed it as a disgraceful performance. Now, I do see that, more modern reviews have given this album its due. Because I can tell you off a first listen, like, no? What? Crosby said of these reviews, they were looking for another record that was full of big, flashy lead guitar and blues licks and screaming lyrics. This album was not where everything else was going, so they thought it was irrelevant. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. Like, really? Really? Like, that's some stuff. Anyways, this album as a whole was fantastic to listen to. It was engaging. It was adventurous. It hit so many different themes, so many different avenues and corners. Like, this was just a very enjoyable listen to me. I'm still telling you immediately that my favorite track is Cowboy Movie. But if I had to do runners-up, it's going to be Tamalpay and Song of No Words. Just because I just love that particular sound that was captured in the music. I just love the mood that was set there. And I would happily come back to those. I would happily come back to the whole album, but I'm just picking out so you guys know. Anyways, wonderful, wonderful album. Great recommendation from you guys. Please don't forget to let me know your favorite memories of David Crosby, his live performances. If you've seen him live, share it down below with me and with everyone else, of course. Let me know your favorite songs. It doesn't have to be from this album. Let me know your favorite albums from him, your favorite memories that may just involve the music. I would love to read all those below. And like I said, I'm sure that other longtime fans of David Crosby, because I can't say I'm a fan of David Crosby because I haven't followed him. I haven't listened to a ton of his music. I've listened to one full album from him. You know, I'm just kind of a new guy. But for you guys, I would love to read your stories and the deeper meanings that it holds for you. So share those in the comments below. Please don't forget, if you've gotten this far, which I hope that you have, to like the video, to subscribe if you haven't, to share the video if you'd like to share it on your social media with other people that you think might enjoy it as well. And you can support my channel and what I do here on Patreon if you'd like to help out that way. But otherwise, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for being here. Have a fantastic night. It's 7:51 p.m. right now. That's like late afternoon, basically. Anyways, thank you for being here. Come back tomorrow. Have a wonderful one, guys. Bye. Why'd I point at you? I'm sorry. Pointing's rude, my mom told me. Bye.